if you come back to the story, this is what the problem of economists have. If they could ground their three functions of money on the three uses of money, and then they'd be on a different journey. Because, as I said, the means of exchange, they can easily link this to money you buy and sell with. Store of value, you can easily link this to lending and borrowing. It's not complicated to do this. You might have to review why you think value could be stored, but let's not go there. As opposed to circulated, I mean. And then you come to this problem, analogously, that's left over gift or giving, I should say, and unit of account. So they must be connected. And this, because people know this is where this argument is going to go, they know this subconsciously, they don't even begin the journey. So then they start arguing over which function is more important, which came first, and so on. And they don't then do what I said earlier in terms of the threefold nature of things. They have no idea that maybe they each have a different nature, and we need to identify their different natures, then look for what is the conversation they need to have. This solution never occurs to them because they have they're always trying to default to money as a means of exchange. That's in the end, if you can't understand the complexity of things, you will go to gold and just give me control of gold, and I can tell you how much of my currency an ounce of gold is worth, and now I can understand myself. I can orientate myself in economic space through this one little piece of gold, which I control. Take that control away, now I have a problem. I cannot orientate myself in economic space. I'm going to have to do this through my discussion with everybody else in that space. And at the very beginning of Steiner's lectures, in this course of lectures on economics, he makes that point very clear. There is no one price which is not connected to every price in the universe. So the idea that you can fix a price is complete nonsense unless you're able to fix the entire universe, which that price presupposes. So, he begins, like every economist, with the question of price, but his starting point is there is no one price which is not reciprocally related to all other prices in the universe. No economist can figure this out because they'd like to say, no, it's just a function of supply and demand. Don't worry about it. That's not what he's saying in the very first lecture. This is heavy stuff. You can't say this in a business school. You can't say this in a high school who's doing business studies. You'll be told, and I can tell you, it says, please hold your course off campus, outside school time, do what you like, but not in connection with this school, because the business studies professor is going to have a huge problem on his hands when you've left, right? And I can tell you this in universities. Can you just stop talking? I've had this said to me in a business school in Budapest once. Can you just stop this lecture? Because I won't be able to manage what you're leaving behind. You're confusing my students. So one shouldn't, it's kind of hard for me to say all this because of the experience I have, people super underestimate the need to contextualize what I'm coming to Steiner's ideas. So already in economics, you could see if they go with the three uses, they could start to link to the functions of money, which they know about, but they won't get to the idea that the two left over, unit of account and giving, have some connection. Until they can have the idea, actually there are not only three functions, but they're all different in kind. And I have on the board behind me an image linked to this, where it's the same epistemology that I've been showing elsewhere. This is the image I would put on every economics textbook, not this image, not two axes and demand and supply curves and all this. Tear them out of the book. In fact, throw Samuelson's book away, and every edition of it since 1947. Throw them all away and put this on your page. This is, first of all, the epistemology problem, that I have to think of two separate things and then let that go, neither inductive nor deductive, and then kind of there would be a revelation. I would then perceive something coming towards me. That's what I've tried to recapitulate here. And now on this image, I can populate this image very powerfully with what I've just said. This image has, you can see it if I describe it, it has three things. Let's say in this case, let's say these are the three functions of money. One of them is higher or above the other two. The image very deliberately does this, meaning it has a higher order status than the other two, meaning it's not on this level. And then of these, one is obvious, it's obvious if I say it, one is on the left and one is on the right. That's obvious. But what I mean is the one on the left is not like the one on the right. So the image is very subtle as we begin this journey here. It's an image of three things. Two of them are of the same order, but they're not the same kind. And the third one is of higher order. This is this is the opposite of this triangular story. The absolute opposite. This is how you think in a world of multiple independent variables. If I make it very precise. So what I'm saying now is hugely, hugely precise. It's parting company with all normal economic theory, but I haven't parted company with your ability to follow me. That's what's important. And now if I say these are three functions of money, I can say, okay, well, we have means of exchange and store of value. I can't quite figure out which is which if I look this way. And above them, we have unit of account. So we have buying and selling, we have lending and borrowing, and now we have giving. Why is giving up there? Because you can see in the normal uses of money that the money I use to buy and sell and the money I use for borrowing and lending, they can go out of, they have a particular relationship. You can't just live in an economy where all the money is saved in the bank. You have to have some money being spent. So there is a structural relationship between what I call the revenue in economy and the capital, to generalize it. And these have to be in a working relationship. And normally your revenue, the revenue is sort of greater than the capital. By that, I mean, if you live in an unhealthy economy, you will end up paying capital sums to buy an apple. And in our economies, generally, the basic problem we have is a structural one. The relationship between revenue and capital has gone upside down. That's why things are so incredibly expensive and there's so little real income, certainly disposable income, because the fundamental relationship that of capital, like to the, like sowing a sack of corn. So to use a kind of number, if you sow a sack of corn, you get 100 sacks in the harvest. You keep one back, and the 99 you spend. This is the fundamental relation of revenue to capital. The capital is always small in this sense. You hold back the sack of corn, so you can repeat this process. And then you got another 99, you put another sack back in. This is an image of the relation of revenue and capital, and this relation has been broken because of everything that happened since Napoleon's time. Once you start producing for the sake of it, this image doesn't work any longer because you don't want even to put the sack back in the ground. But, I won't get into it too much, but that image, you sow one sack of corn, you get 100 sacks. You sell 99 and you put one back in the ground. This is an image of relation of revenue or capital. And that is structural, meaning these two things have to be in a very precise relationship, precise in conceptual terms. And then you have the problem. So how do we achieve this? There has to be some kind of balancing medium to make sure the amount of money in the world is structurally related to the amount of capital in the world. Meaning the store of value function and the medium of exchange function have to be mediated by another one, which is the unit of account, what I'm calling the unit of account, or rather what is called the unit of account. It doesn't really mean the dollar bill. It means there's some aspect of economic life which makes sure the amount of revenue and capital in the world are in a healthy relationship, whatever that might be, and it's forever changing. And I would argue that's easy when you see that when you give money, you're transferring excess wealth in your economy into somebody else's economy. They're going to come back into this world because if they have access, they're going to have access, they're going to have to do the same thing. So so this unit of account and this giving, I'm not speaking the Steiner's language, I'm just speaking normally. This giving is a balancing function. And now you can, if one accepts this, you can see if people don't give, if people don't take Richard Eel seriously and systematically create surpluses to be given away to build a school, to fund an opera house, if they systematically stop doing this, there will be a serious problem in the economy. And you can look around everywhere, take the art, take the statues, take the opera house, take all this, take the education, the real education out of social life, and your economy will just tank. You know, because of our consciousness, we're going to have to wait till this happens to realize, oh, you know, but if you're in Ireland, when they do a development, they make damn sure you put a statue in the middle of the development before you do the housing. Not that you promised to do this and then you, oh, we ran out of money. So in fact, you know, we made another house instead of a statue. Because in Ireland, they have this kind of sense, at least I like to think they have this sense, that art is absolutely fundamental to a healthy economy. A kind of useless thing in the middle of the town is critical to the health of that society. So you don't replace everything with a house, which is what's going on in most modern economies. Every store is now sold to be an apartment block. At least in my town, that's what's happening. So you have to make an image. We can't just have apartment blocks. You know, it just doesn't work. So if we're very clear about this, the need for balancing, then we can start to see, oh, maybe that's what the unit of account is all about, although we don't quite understand why it has its funny name. But also we can understand that's what giving is all about, economically seen. The excess that I have, I don't put it back. I don't buy something I don't need or lend it out when there's no one to lend it to. You know, I actually give it away and let someone else, let's see what happens. And I say this, I'm nowhere near Steiner yet. I'm just saying, look at the modern situation. How many people buy stuff they don't need? And it's a bit of a stretch to say it, but it's not, you know, I could give you chapter and verse from Keynes about this. When you buy stuff for the sake of it, there's some kind of malady going on in your life. There's some kind of identification. You need to get your identity out of the fact you've got 4 cars and not one. Or I don't know, or you've got a hugely expensive pair of trainers with someone's name on it because you don't credit your own name. You know, so you're quite happy for some company to sell you a pair of trainers at 150 bucks that they paid $2 for, right? Just so you wear the name of someone else on your shoes. I'm tiptoeing around this because my son-in-law is the marketing head of Air Jordan. So I tiptoe around. I love Nike because there's a great story behind Nike, which I won't tell you now, but a really, really great story, but I won't tell you it now. But I like playing with this one because if he ever watches my videos, he will know what I'm talking about. And because we have lots of discussions about finance and Nike. But it's, you know, but why would I pay 150 bucks for a pair of shoes with the name of someone else on it? What's the point? You know, I've got my own name. It's a pair of shoes. Who cares? I can get the same shoes for, you know, 1/3 of the price, and they probably even paid twice to the supplier, right? You know, so we shouldn't underestimate all this transposition of lack of identity onto buying more stuff or more expensive stuff than it needs to be, and everything that sits behind it. And similarly, you know, if I'm just parking money until I need it to spend, you can easily see the amount of money you're parking is more than you're ever going to spend. I can also say in the pension markets, for example, in Switzerland and elsewhere, the amount of money stocked in the pension markets, in the pension funds, is maybe 7, 10, I don't know, 12 times more than the real economy will ever need. It's stocked pointlessly, right? Meaning you can't invest it, it's not needed. But there it is, and it's earning interest. So where's this interest coming from? It's not being used, it's not coming from productive use of that money, it's simply stocked. Because we got into some kind of notion about pensions where we just stock these huge amounts of money, and then they start moving around the world, earning money on themselves for actuarial reasons, but there's nothing to earn the money on. All this, we have to be really, really clear This is really out of order. We've got excess money, so we buy stuff we don't need. We've got excess capital, so we lend it where there isn't any real return possible. And that the whole economy is out of whack because the balancing element, giving away the excess, identifying what have I got in excess to my need, this is a very variable thing. This isn't a socialist or a kind of regulatory concept. It's for you to decide how much capital is sitting in reserves in your bank account and has been for 50 years because you actually don't need it in terms of your own existence. If you shed that, just put that into circulation, this would have a huge balancing effect. And I can macro this up to say, if you want to work out how much money is in the financial markets, floating around the world at huge cost to everybody, you can't put a number on that. But if you were to calculate how much capital people need in the world, whether it's individuals or countries or whatever it might be, you can't put a number on that either. But I would say the amount of capital needed by these people equals the amount of money uselessly circulating the world in the financial markets. And that brings us to a choice. We can either say, okay, well then let's lose all this excess in capitalizing people, countries, young people, or let's wait for a market correction to do it for us. Either way, we will say we're going to rebalance the economy. So I think it's pretty clear. This third use of money, giving, seen economically, not in terms of private, the generosity, oh, thank you for giving me money. Just as a straight piece of clinical economics, it has a balancing function. It means from the person who's giving, they have enough revenue, they have enough capital, but somehow they've got a whole bunch of money which they don't need, belongs to them by law. So they just need to transfer that to someone else. They don't need to care, it doesn't matter where, it will have a balancing effect because wherever that goes to, that person has the same problem. And so this money we're giving away, I'm not meaning on the level of just donations, I'm just meaning clinical economic theory. The money that we give away, if we do it systematically, not waiting for Bill Gates to do it when he has so much money he doesn't know what to do, or Jeff Bezos gives it to his wife and then they part company, whatever the stories are. If we were to do it, if everybody was to shed their excess wealth systematically on a monthly basis, it would just have a rebalancing effect. This is my assumption. And once you get to that point, you can see that the function of giving in this ordinary sense is to rebalance spending and lending money. And therefore, the real function hidden behind unit of account is this. And now you come to a very powerful image that we already have in economic life, 3 different functions of money: revenue, capital, and balancing between them. That's all there is. That's all that needs to be done, and it's all that needs to be understood. And then we will balance ourselves before the market balances it for us. Because we all live in an economy which is so unwell that we're all hoping it doesn't, there isn't a market correction before I've made a ton of money out of nothing. We're all hoping for this, right? But we live like kind of idiots. We're just living in a world waiting for the market to correct our bad behavior. It's not commonly to say, okay, well, let's just organize ourselves so we correct the market. It doesn't correct us.